Vincent.
Oh, you're not talking to me?
And how we're fighting climate change. You know, it's the biggest hoax that there is out there.
Yeah, and you can see it from space. That's how big it is.
I know,
You can see it from
yeah, the climate
space.
change. I know, it's all blue. But when I turn it green, actually Al Gore managed to turn blue planet into his own green planet.
What is
100 million of green, in fact.
The burning question is climate change. I don't know if you guys noticed this last summer, everything was like burning up in America. We got a big problem on our hands, and not the climates aren't paying attention to it. The media is not paying attention to it. One of our political parties is pretending it's not happening. It's a big deal.
But it's not happening. There is no climate change.
It is happening. Of course it's happening.
No, it's not.
Of course it's happening.
No, it's not.
Like 50% of the Arctic has melted. Of course it's happening.
What was here? Simple question. What was here the spot we're on right now? I mean, this is the question that always, the argument I always use.
Right.
What was here some 10,000 years ago? The same exact spot where
and
we
that
are.
gives you an idea how quickly the climate can change. And it can get much worse and much hotter.
Let me rephrase it.
Now.
Let me ask a question a different way.
It was a simple question.
Wait. What causes climate change? What do you think is causing climate change?
Humans, completely humans.
Okay.
It's our carbon emissions.
Let me revert to my initial question then. What was here 10,000 years ago?
We were under ice.
Correct.
Correct.
What happened to it?
The ice melted because the climate can change very quickly.
So
why are we taking this dangerous risk by pumping all these heat-trapping gases in the atmosphere? Things can change very quickly.
But no humans were pumping CO2 into the atmosphere 10,000 years ago.
I understand, right?
And the ice melted anyway.
But the point is, the climate is we're always on a razor's edge of the climate being able to change very quickly. Okay, always on a razor's edge. So here we're taking this crazy experiment by pumping all these heat-trapping gases in the atmosphere as if it's not going to make any difference.
How did ice?
It's going to make a difference.
But don't you think that no matter what you do, climate is going to change anyway, as it has in millennia?
The climate ebbs and flows. That's for sure. I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that. But listen, you can't, on the same token, deny that all this carbon we're putting into 761 metric tons of carbon in the atmosphere every second. It just happened. It happened again. It happened again. And that's not going to have any impact. The atmosphere, even though it covers the whole world, is very thin.
How stable is temperature?
I'm sorry?
How stable is Earth's temperature?
Well, I mean, right now we're in the Holocene epoch. And during the Holocene epoch, things have been very stable.
Okay.
But that's not the way the Earth normally goes. And it can change fast. And here we're taking this huge experiment that could really screw things up. As when we've had these giant volcanic eruptions and stuff like that. Everything that sustains us, we could get rid of, we could lose very quickly because we're taking this crazy risk.
But don't how did you get here?
How did I get here?
Yeah.
I flew on an airplane.
And what does airplane do?
Airplane emits carbon.
So why did you fly?
Well, listen, my friend, we're running out of time to do this, all right?
So why did you fly?
I wish I could do this in a perfect way. But the bottom line is I can't walk from Denver to here for this debate and then to Florida for that debate. Look, we're running out of time to deal with this. So no, look, future generations are not going to care if I flew a plane. They're only going to care if they have air they can breathe and water they can drink. Look, don't make me into a hypocrite because I'm exercising my political... No, I'm not.
Because you are.
No, I'm not.
Because you are.
No,
and
I'm
here's
not.
why.
No, I'm not.
Okay, let me remove the word hypocrite.
I am not saying that we can't... Look, we are trapped right now in a situation where we live in a society where you can't use trains for everything. You can't use solar for everything. You can't use wind for everything because the oil companies have made it so that you can't do anything about it.
What are you
We're
suggesting?
stuck in that.
What are you suggesting?
We're stuck in that.
Stop flying? Stop driving? Stop using electricity?
I am not
What's your solution?
I'm saying we need on a mass social level. We need public transportation like train systems and everything like that.
Wait. Hold on. Let's do one thing at a time.
Well, if you're going to ask me a question, let me answer.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yes.
Well, look. I mean, it's like if we had a mass transit system and lightning rail like they do in Japan and Europe, we could get around without having to like fly across the country.
But I have to interject.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I have to interject because for trains to travel, you're talking about electric trains specifically, right?
Sure.
Okay. They have to get electricity, right?
Well,
the source of energy.
They have to use some form of power.
We're going to get electricity from them.
Well, I mean, you have to look again. There are ways to generate
specifically.
electricity.
I mean, you were specific about the trains.
Well, let me finish. There are ways to generate electricity, ways to generate power by sun, by wind, by hydroelectric. There are ways that you can do it without spewing carbon into the air. That's my point.
Okay.
Carbon is what's killing us.
Okay, let's do one thing at a time. Let's say solar energy. Okay. How do we get solar energy? From what?
We get it from the sun. Solar panels.
But to solar panels.
Yeah.
How do we make solar panels?
Look, you make solar panels using some form of energy. We're not saying we're going to go back to the Dark Ages. We're not saying...
Yes, you are.
No.
Yes, you are.
Let me finish. No,
okay.
Look. There are ways that we can use renewables to fuel our society. And yet the fossil fuel industry is blocking that every time in Congress with their allies. So there's no way we can do the transition. They're forcing us to keep using fossil fuels up until the last possible minute. We need to quit oil before oil quits us. Period. End of story.
Okay. So a couple of questions then.
Okay.
I didn't interrupt you.
I appreciate that.
Good.
Okay.
Now, when we talk about the alternative sources of energy, okay, such as wind, such as solar, and let's set aside how you actually make those machines that convert the alternative sources in electricity. That's a separate story, which we can talk about separately. Now, what's the breakdown when it comes to the fossil fuels as the source of energy versus other sources of energy? Do you know the breakdown?
Do you?
Yes, I do.
Okay, tell me.
1%.
Okay.
Only one.
So what are you saying?
What I'm saying is that what you're suggesting is exactly going back to Dark Ages.
No, it's
yes,
not.
It is.
No.
Because you haven't.
You're saying
you
that
have,
I'm saying we give up
can I finish now?
Okay.
I didn't interrupt you. What's your practical plan of quitting right away? You're talking about Congress today, not 1,000 years from now. Today, okay? Today. They're blocking.
Over the matter of decades.
Yes. Decades, fine, decades. Not 1,000 years from now. Decades, okay? We're talking about the life of Earth, which is 4.5 billion years old, okay? So if we stop using any fossil fuels within a decade, like you were suggesting.
I didn't say a decade.
You just said that we're blocking.
No. We need to reduce by 6% every year.
Starting in 2000.
Starting as soon as possible, 6%, and we need to start planting carbon sinks, such as grasslands, forest lands. It's totally doable. If you make it like America could lead the world and be the hero.
Okay, let's take Obama. Did you vote for Obama?
I did vote for Obama.
Okay, so speaking of heroes, here's your hero. Okay, who invested?
I didn't say it was my hero. I said I voted for him.
Well, hero when it comes to the renewable energy cost.
I wish he would do a lot
better.
He
invested $500 million.
We had a very good interview.
$500 million. I'm not a professional. I'm just having a discussion.
Well,
That's
no,
it.
But
I'm concerned.
We didn't say those things. You're saying that we said this and we said that. And
but
we're like,
that's exactly what
I didn't say it was my hero.
Okay,
Wilson said he was my hero.
So can you stop doing that so we can have a conversation?
Good, fine.
Thank you.
I'll scratch it off.
Okay.
Scratch off hero. I'll keep everything else in place.
Well, let's have a dialogue because that's way more exciting than you telling me what I said.
Good.
Okay, great.
I agree. So, Obama, scratch off hero, the person you voted for, not my words, your words, he was the one who invested $500 million into Solyndra, right?
Oh, we're going to talk about Solyndra.
Yes, of course. And Fisker, and a whole bunch of other companies. What happened to them?
Look.
Just the other day, another company that was making batteries for Volt, for example, went bankrupt.
So what you're saying is renewables never work? Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's not exactly. Now you're putting words in.
Well, no, I said, is that right? I let you. I said. So what you're saying?
This is very simple. Very simple.
For our world, do you want
very simple. It's very simple. It's very simple.
Okay.
First of all, when it comes to climate change, this is not the established science to start with. Point one. Point two.
Wait, who says?
Point two.
Who says?
Yes,
If 98% of climate scientists say this is really happening, how can you say this is
it's
not
very
happening?
simple. I asked you the question just a minute ago about the stability of the temperature in Eocene. You just confirmed. Temperature has been remarkably stable in the past decades.
But what you're
right?
saying is that the established science is something that the established scientists are not saying at all. They're saying this is happening. They're saying this is a real threat. They're saying we really need to do something about this in a hurry. So you can't say.
Yes, I can.
Just the way you frame the question is like, this is what the established science
Let's
says.
revert back again. You just joined recently to common sense. Okay, here's my commonsensical approach to this issue.
Okay, wait, very quickly.
Yes.
Be very careful. You know, any of us could say, I'm the common sense guy, and that's a pretty arrogant
all
thing
of
to
us.
say.
No, all of us. I didn't say
Any
I.
of us could say that. All
Did
right,
I say
all
I?
right. Go
Did I say
ahead,
me? I
make
said
your point.
us. Common sense. I hope that
All
you will agree.
Wait, I want to hear his point.
Yeah, I'll tell you my vision. It's very simple. So when it comes to commonsensical approach, Earth is 4.5 billion years old.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's only been like this for a tiny portion of those 4.5 billion years.
You're talking
This
about.
is a very, very precarious, beautiful climate that we're living with.
Well,
it's very precarious.
See, I didn't interrupt you.
Okay.
So let me finish my train of thought, okay? And I'm going back to something that we've just discussed.
Okay.
On the scale of 4.5 billion years, 10,000 years sound like almost nothing, like a fraction of a second.
You are correct.
Correct? Now, 10,000 years ago, same exact spot where we're standing on again, there was an ice shield more than mile high.
Maybe
Correct?
not a mile high. It was very thick.
Very thick.
Okay.
Mile, 2 miles, or whatever.
I think it was shorter than that, but whatever.
Whatever.
Okay.
Half a mile.
All right.
100 meters, if you want to switch to metric system. I'm from Russia, regional life metric system better. So what happened to it?
It melted.
It melted.
Right.
Okay, now, getting to common sense. I mean, we're still on the same... No, I'm not.
Cut to the chase.
We're talking about commonsensical approach,
you
right?
already brought this up with me before, so where are you going?
So what I'm going to again is that when you claim, and that's the part that I disagree with, the only essential part that I disagree with when it comes to climate change. Do I agree that the climate has been changing? Absolutely. For the 4.5 billion years that the Earth has been in existence, it has been changing consistently. Warmer, colder, and so on and so on. The part that I vehemently disagree with is that by us stop flying, which you just did, you came here by plane, emitting CO2s, that human activities, that what we do by the dint of us living, by the dint of us using electricity, by the dint of us living in civilized world, that we somehow contribute to this quote-unquote rapid, catastrophic climate change. It's going to change anyway.
You can believe
That's my point.
And most of the scientists will disagree. But you can still believe that, and here are the reasons.
Okay.
We are now dependent on an energy source that's finite. We don't want to run out of that. We do want to go on to green energy, and we also want to, for the sake of getting the money out of the Middle East, we want to get off of oil.
With that, I agree.
Yes, so we can be on the same team
yes,
for
we
different
can.
reasons.
Yes, we can.
Let's do it. Let's get
Let's
off
do
oil.
it. This is. So this is if I were the president.
Yeah.
Let's say if it were up to me, this is what I would have done. Number one. Speaking of finite resources, what's the definition of finite? 100 years, 1,000 years, 10,000 years?
Depending on something that's running out, and that's not good for the future and our future generations.
Well, what's going to happen to Earth 5 billion years from now? Do you know what's going to happen to Earth 5 billion years from now?
Explode? Is that what happens?
Well, yeah. I mean, the Earth will cease to exist. So we're all finite, right?
Right.
So, getting back to finite resources, this is my plan. A, drill, baby, drill, wherever you find the resources that we can cheaply use today, paying for gas, even though the gas price is the highest that it has ever been.
How about community energy efficiency? How about each community champion getting onto its own localized...
You're talking about the details.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about details. I'm going to talk about the big picture.
No.
Big picture.
You can't talk about the big
Yes,
picture.
yes, you can. Yes, you
can't
can.
say drill, baby, drill with the emissions and the result that these climate
Speaking of
scientists...
emissions,
These climate scientists are
Yes.
saying these emissions are causing this catastrophe, this impending catastrophe. So it's like you can't say, oh, drill by baby drill is the commonsensical way to do it. When in fact, according to these guys, it is the last thing we should be doing, and it'll kill us. So why not convert? Why take a chance with something as precious as all of life?
Let me ask another question. Let's say if you were living, I don't know, 2,000 years ago, would you believe that Earth is flat?
Well, I mean,
okay, let me give you another example. No, another example, better example. Let's say in the time of Copernicus, for example, like 500 years back. Would you think that it's the sun that revolves around Earth, or would you think that it's Earth that revolves around the sun?
Most people would have said, okay, how can you film me for that? Most people at that time, clearly, by standards observation, would have stood on the Earth as they did, and thought, the sun goes around the Earth. That's what they thought. Okay. All right? So,
do you follow my logic now?
No.
Okay, let me expand my logic. when you are claiming that allegedly, and let's
not
take it.
Allegedly,
let's
98% of the scientists are saying this. It's a fact.
So let's.
The climate scientists, the people who this is their specialty. Continue.
So my point is that those climate scientists are the ones who would stand on Earth, look at the sky, and think, wait a minute, it's the fact that it's the sun that rises.
I would argue that it's the people who are completely ignoring science, who are the people like yourself are the people who would have been the ones saying, you know, it's the opposite.
What's the name? Speaking of scientists, what's the name of the most famous scientist, climatologist?
It's James Hansen.
Exactly. Have you heard of this climate gate kind of thing?
I've heard of climate gate, which has been disproven.
Really?
It's been disproven.
Really?
Look it up on Wikipedia.
It's been
international bodies that studied it, and it's been disproven.
Okay. Now, you know that the Earth's temperature hasn't really budged at all during the past 16 or so years, right?
Well, 16,000. You're talking about the Holland.
No. I'm talking about the past.
No, every year is a new record. Every year pretty much is a new heat.
Well, then wait a minute. I guess we're using different sources of information because based on the current measurements of the past 16 years, temperature has been remarkably stable. It might have risen by a fraction of a centigrade, like 0.7 degrees.
Who are you listening to? Where do you get your facts? Where do you get your facts? This is completely not true.
So how much do you think temperature has changed in the past decade and a half?
Look, we could go on like this forever. You've got your video, you've got me on video, whatever. You can do whatever you want with it because, you know, I know you well and I got no rights over what you're doing. But I have better things to do, I'm sorry, than talk to somebody who is completely, you know, you have your mind made up, all right? That's fine. You go ahead and have your mind made up. I'm trying to save the world, period, end of story.
Good luck with that. Stop flying planes then. Start with yourself, okay?
What do you mean?
Well, if you want to save the world, stop flying the planes.
Stop what?
Flying the planes, riding the cars, using electricity. They all emit CO2s. Stop being a hypocrite then. I'm not a hypocrite.
So what, you want me to walk? You want me to walk?
Yes.
Okay.
Because that's what you preach.
No. What I am preaching is saying, I'm not saying we go back to living in trees and living in tents and teepees. What I'm saying is we're smart enough to create a better way out of this as opposed to polluting the world. We're smart enough.
I'm not against it. Just not today in 2012. Once this technology becomes competitive. Fine, I'm all for it. I'm for wind, except of course when it kills thousands and thousands of birds which are endangered the least. It's a different story.
Look,
I am for solar, of course, unless of course solar panels use rare earth metals. 95% of rare earth metals are located in China.
Look,
to mine for air.
Find a way.
Let me finish.
No.
To mine for.
We're done talking.
All right.
We're done talking.
Okay.
We can find a solution for this using renewables. We can still get around.
Maybe 1,000 years from now, maybe.
No,
not today.
We're smart enough. Yes, all the science is there today, and yet it's being blocked by people who want us to keep using petroleum and fossil fuels. Okay, have yourself a good one.
All right, you too.
Take care. You seriously, you know what, buddy? I appreciate the fact that you listen. A lot of guys don't listen. There's another guy here with that guy right there. He just won't let you get a word in. You know, it's like he just starts talking over you. And I appreciate the fact.
I always do.
You stopped and listened. I really do. I appreciate that.
Good.
All right.
So we have a dialogue because if you don't,
I appreciate that. I really do. But at the end of the day, it's like, you know what, dude?
We might disagree in the end.
Well,
I'm fine with that.
I'm literally trying to save the world. That's how I feel that important this is.
So am I. And you know how?
How so?
I'll explain how. Look, I traveled around the world. I've been to about 50 countries around the world. I was born in USSR. So I lived sort of on both sides of the Iron Curtain. I saw what life can be like where people do not have access to electricity. When people literally die from hunger. I mean, here we use like euphemisms. People are dying in hunger in the United States. Nobody dies from hunger in the United States. I mean,
you can take the camera out.
Okay. So we want to have those countries to be upgraded to our standard of living. And we're denying them this opportunity to live like us, to enjoy the luxuries of our world, the first country world as opposed to third world country status.
But buddy,
yes.
What if those scientists are really right, and we really are screwing up the planet that bad? No, Joe, don't roll your eyes. These are guys who have studied the shit out of it. You can't just like dismiss them that easily. And if you do dismiss them that easily, you have to kind of wonder what your motives are. You have to. Come on, these are geniuses.
So
these are guys that have studied ice cores and worked on this.
So let's continue for another 2 minutes.
No.
Okay.
All right. Have a good night.
Okay, you too. Bye bye.